evening, everybody. I'm Alan Iden. Welcome to WinCAM's Decision 02 Election Forum. Before we get going this evening, I'd like to explain a couple of, just give you a little background on your local origination channel, local access channel. This channel is Winchester Community Access and Media. It's your local television station. There are two types of programs produced here. One is local access programming. Local access programming is produced by local residents who have taken the no-charge training course here at WinCAM. And their programs may or may not express the views of WinCAM. They generally may express their own personal views. The program you're looking at tonight is a local origination program. This program is produced by the staff here at WinCAM. And in doing so, we strive very hard to present a completely unbiased viewpoint and balanced viewpoints here. So having said that, let's go on and let's begin our forum here tonight. We have two representatives of the local press here, Maureen O'Connell from the Winchester Star, Maureen, and Chris Conley from the Daily Times Chronicle. We'll be questioning tonight. We have also our two candidates for the contested office of school committee, Mark Feblowitz right here to my left here, and just beyond him, Paul Chagru. Gentlemen, good evening. Everybody, welcome. The format for tonight's program will be each of the candidates here will have 1 minute to make an opening statement, and then we'll be questioned, each question by alternating members of the press. We'll have 1 minute to answer. You'll have a warning at your half minute. Hopefully I won't have to cut you off, but we'll need to move the program forward. We're going to have a half hour with our school committee candidates here, and then we will have an hour discussion on the override question. So why don't we begin with you, Maureen, and your first question for the school committee candidates.
Opening statements.
Oh, okay. God, good. Chris, thank you. Chris keeps me honest. Okay, let's go back and opening statements. Mark.
Thank you, Alan.
Go.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Mark Feblowitz, and I'm running for school committee. I'm a 17-year resident in Winchester, married with 3 children in the schools, one at Morocco, one at McCall, and one at the high school. Motivated by my commitment to excellence in education, I have been involved in the schools for 10 years as a volunteer and as a committed advocate. Professionally, I bring skills in technology and management with a bachelor's in computer science and a master's in software engineering, and 22 years of professional experience. As co-founder of AQE, the Advocates for Quality Education, I have studied many school budgets and attended many school committee meetings. I am now ready to go to work on the school's many challenges: hiring a superintendent, maintaining superior curriculum and educationally sound class sizes, getting the state to pay its fair share for the regular and special ed costs, openly discussing the school's needs, and clearly communicating to you the school's fiscal accountability. The challenges are great, but so are the opportunities. Winchester could not function without the community's involvement. I look forward to answering your questions tonight and to working with you to keep our schools great.
Thank you, Mark. Paul.
Hi, my name is Paul Chagru, and I'm running for school committee in next Tuesday's town-wide election. The reason I am running is simple. I want to give back to a town that has given me much, and I believe I have a lot to offer. I also believe that the Winchester Public Schools are one of our town's greatest assets, and I'd like to do my part to make sure our children continue to receive a first-rate education consistent with the values of our town. I am a product of the Winchester Public Schools. I went to the Mystic School, McCall Middle School, and graduated from Winchester High School in 1985. I went to the University of Notre Dame, spent 4 years as an officer in the U.S. Navy, and then earned my MBA from Georgetown University. I returned to Boston, married a high school classmate, the former Paula Russo, and spent 4 years working as a commercial loan officer at Bank Boston. Today, I am a commercial loan officer at Winchester Savings Bank. We live on Washington Street with our 2 young children. We are home, and we see clearly that our town and our schools are at a turning point. I believe our town can and must move in the right direction where education is concerned. That's why I'm here tonight as a candidate for school committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, and thank you once again, Chris, as you do year after year, for keeping me on track here. So now, Maureen, if you'd like to have your first,
My turn.
your turn, right.
You gentlemen have both just outlined a little bit about your experience. Why do you feel that you're a good school committee candidate?
Mark, why don't we start with you on the first answer?
Well, I feel that I'm a good school committee candidate because I've been paying attention to the schools. I've been involved in the schools for 10 years. I have a strong passion for excellence in education, and I've been applying that passion both as a volunteer in the classroom and also in helping to co-found and also to co-chair AQE. I've watched, I've learned, I've studied, I've read many budgets, and I understand the process very well. And I know many of the people who are involved. I know I can interact with them very well. I know I can productively debate and dialogue with them. And I feel as though I can bring new ideas to that board.
Thank you. Paul?
I think I bring a fresh perspective to the school committee, new ideas. I also think that my banking experience will come in handy, as well as my MBA. I'm comfortable looking at a budget. I'm very comfortable looking at revenues and expenses. I'll also add that in preparing for my running, I met with all of the principals of the school system to find out what they felt was the greatest asset in the school system as well as the greatest weakness. In meeting with these principals, without exception, the greatest asset in our school system are our teachers. My mother, in fact, was a teacher in the school system for 30 years, and she was extremely dedicated. And so I would like to be on the school committee in large part to support our excellent teachers that we have in our school system.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Chris Conley from the Daily Times Chronicle.
Thanks, Alan. Question to both candidates is a short one and probably the one that's on everyone's minds. Where do you stand on the override, and are you for it, or why not?
Okay,
Give us
Paul,
your
why
view.
don't we start with you this time?
I am strongly for the override. In talking again with the principals, I firmly believe that if the override doesn't pass, the quality of education that we'll offer in the school system will be not what it is today. I don't think we can afford not to pass the override, so I'm a strong proponent.
Thank you, Paul and Mark.
I've been watching the schools and the school enrollments grow, the special ed costs grow, with the state reimbursements for special ed not growing and staying at a very low 17%. I've seen the school budget go up in some years, but last year very little at about 1.7%, and the projected growth this year is 0, with a projected growth of 90 students system-wide and more expenses as well. The schools absolutely need this override to keep offering a quality program and to keep their class sizes low enough to retain our qualified, our talented, and our committed teachers. I see them as being worth keeping, and our students absolutely require it. I am very much for this override. I'm also very enthusiastic that this override is not just for the schools, but it's for the whole town, and it establishes a long-term program for maintaining the buildings, all of them as well.
Gentlemen, thank you. We'll go back to Maureen O'Connell from the Winchester Star for our next question.
Gentlemen, on the same track, if the override does not pass, what kind of things do you think will have to be done in the schools to keep the quality of education high?
Mark, why don't we start with you?
Well, that will be one of the hardest jobs in town, I think, because I foresee quite a few staff cuts that would be required, and the hardest thing that we on the school committee will have to do is make some very difficult decisions. I see it as basically throwing essential personnel overboard, and I certainly don't want to be in the position of having to do that. I think we're going to have to very carefully evaluate what the Administrative Council has selected as cuts and decide whether or not those are the right cuts. It may be that we will have to revisit the question of school alignments, with class sizes and what have you. I don't have a firm position yet on what we will do with that. I think we need to roll up our sleeves and make some very, very hard choices.
All right, thank you. Paul?
I agree with Mark that if the override were not to pass, we would be in a very difficult situation in the school system. If the override were not to pass, there would be a total of 20 personnel cuts in the school system, 16 teachers and 4 librarians. In talking with the principals in the school system, we just cannot afford to lose that number of teachers and have the classroom size increase. Again, I agree with Mark. I hope we don't face that situation. I think as a member of the school committee, a key component in managing that process would be to the hiring of a superintendent who is able to communicate a strong vision when teacher morale would certainly be at an all-time low.
Gentlemen, thank you. Let's go back to Chris Conley.
Following up on the override question, I'm sure both of you have been going around town and talking to a lot of different people, and I'm sure that they've heard your position on the override. What do you think is the most difficult objection that you've heard to the override? And how do you counter it, given your position?
That it?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Give me a couple more seconds.
I was waiting for the rest of the question
couple
there.
more phrases to throw on the end there.
Okay, let's start with Paul Shagru.
I would say the most difficult objection is, if I'm hearing you correctly, the fact that taxes will increase. And I say that the school system in particular is well worth the funding. I think all of us in town, when we decided to live in Winchester, our school system was a key reason why we decided to live in this town of ours. And we are at a critical stage today, and I would say to those that in particular were opposed to tax increases, that if they want Winchester school children, our future, to continue to receive a first-rate education, we have to pass the override.
Thank you, Paul. Mark Feblowitz.
Well, this is a difficult one. This tax is a property tax. It is an income-insensitive tax. One of the things that I've been hearing is that it is blind to the ability of the taxpayers to pay, and it is only based on the property value. I think that it's unfortunate that the state has put us in this position where we have an income-insensitive tax. I would like to seek other alternatives as well. I know the state has an income tax, and we could get more of that. I think we need to fight on Beacon Hill with many of our counterparts who are also suffering the same problem. I think there may be other taxes that are more income sensitive, and it troubles me that the tax increase would have to be borne by all of the citizens in spite of whether or not they have the ability to pay that tax.
All right, thank you. Let's go back to Maureen O'Connell.
One of the arguments that I've heard is that the current school committee has just made class sizes too small. Why do we need 17 in a class? Can you guys talk about the importance, whether or not you think it's important to have small classes, especially at the elementary level?
Well, first of all, 17 is a very small number, and it's not actually very accurate. If you take a look at the core class sizes, that is the core curriculum, setting aside some of these smaller exploratories and what have you, those numbers go up. We are not lower than any of our counterparts in the area. As a matter of fact, we're a little bit on the high side when you compare us to comparable towns. I have seen cases where class sizes that are allowed to go up, especially in early elementary, have ended up putting children at risk, putting them on a track to special education, which ends up costing the town more and serving the children less well. And so I would say that it's very important for us to keep the class sizes low for that, and also because our teachers could easily be lured away to school systems with smaller classes if we don't keep those class sizes at an educationally sound level.
Mark, thank you. Paul?
I think class size is very important. It was a key point that was made to me by the principals that I spoke with. It's a key issue with the teachers in our school system to keep class sizes at a reasonable level. I'll mention again that if the override were not to pass and 16 teachers would have to be let go, class size obviously is going to increase. The teachers feel that this is a key issue, and again, we have to protect the dedicated teachers we have in the school system.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chris Conley from the Daily Times Chronicle.
Where do you guys stand on the issue of the Ambrose School? Renovate or rebuild, or do you see some combination of the Ambrose with the Parkhurst or the Mystic schools as a viable alternative down the road?
I would have to look at the plans that the EB, I always get that. Yeah, right. I know that they've proposed,
my sleep.
right, I know they've proposed 5 different options. I haven't been able to look at those 5 options. Certainly, Ambrose is in desperate need of repair of some sort, but to fully answer that question, I'd have to review those various plans.
Mark?
Well, I just toured Ambrose this morning and had a very long conversation with Lori Trogett, the principal there. I have to say that not only is that building in deplorable condition, but it is also educationally unsound in that the teachers have to juggle classrooms in order to make sure that the children who are in a particular class can hear, so that they have to schedule one class out while another one's in. And it's just untenable. I do see that Ambrose has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed soon. The classes are bulging, and there's only one classroom in that whole building that is in compliance with state regulations. I think that we need to look to our EFPBC, who are qualified individuals and who are in touch with qualified individuals, evaluate their plans, and make a sound decision. And frankly, I don't have a position on it because I'm open to what these qualified individuals will present to us in terms of both the educational plan and also the financing.
Gentlemen, thank you. For our next question, let's go back to Maureen O'Connell from the Winchester Star.
We talked, you guys both mentioned special education is a large portion of the budget. Are there things that we can do as a school system to reduce the cost of special ed?
Well, there are things that the school system has already done to reduce the costs, and I think that if you compare us to other towns, we do quite well. Anything that we can do preventatively as far as catching problems early and giving them close attention early will help us prevent some of the students from entering the special ed program. On the other hand, there are children who, whatever intervention we do, will still need special services, some of those being very expensive. We need to find the best ways to include them in the program as we can to try and reduce costs where we can, but we do not want to deny them services just because they're costly. We need to go after the state, as I've said before, because 17% reimbursement as compared to the nationwide average of 45% is just worse than suboptimal. It's a shame. So I think that we need to find a way to go to the state and help us with those costs. This is a societal problem, not just a Winchester problem.
Thank you. Paul?
I would agree that the 17% that the state provides us is insufficient. I know that our school budget in 1995, the special ed portion of the school budget was $1.9 million. this most current budget, it's $5.5 million, and that, of course, is mandated expenses. I think we have to look for ways to increase the state portion of that funding. I also think that we may have to reevaluate the standards we set for those students entering the special education program. I believe the number of students is about 13% in the school system, and I think we just have to look at the standards as to who gets in that program.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's go back to Chris Conley for our next question.
Recently, Superintendent Carol Eaton announced that she's going to be leaving and moving to New York. That means that there's going to have to be a new superintendent, and the search will start soon. As a member of the school committee, what are your priorities in this search? What are you looking for in a candidate? And sort of specifically, what kind of a superintendent do you think that Winchester could benefit from in the future? And what's your timeline for hiring a new superintendent?
I would say, Chris, the most important quality in a new superintendent is someone that has a vision for the future, someone that can envision what the Winchester Public Schools can be 10, 15 years down the road, and probably most importantly, someone who can communicate the importance of a first-rate public education in the Winchester Public Schools to the community. Also, we need a strong leader. We need somebody that would be a good team player, that would work well with both the school committee and administrators. And the timeline, I think that we should have a new superintendent in place come September 1.
Well, thank you. Mark?
I agree with everything that Paul has said. I think we need someone who has a strong background. I agree entirely that that person has to have a good, solid vision of excellence in education. That person should be as comfortable in the classroom as they are with a spreadsheet, and have the ability not just to understand and set educational values and high standards for curriculum, but also understand how to run a $23+ million operation like this. That person would absolutely must be able to communicate with the town effectively and to share not just the vision, but the fiscal transparency that the town needs and demands. I think that we need to have that person in place well before the fall. I understand that Dr. Eaton is leaving July 31st, and it would be ideal if we could find someone to overlap that.
Gentlemen, thank you. Let's go back to Maureen O'Connell for our next question.
You gentlemen have both mentioned that you've toured some of the schools. Winchester High School has been a hot topic among the school committee as it's going to be up for reaccreditation in the fall of 2004. What kind of things do you think need to be done at the high school for it to receive that accreditation again?
Accreditation?
Yeah.
Well, first of all and foremost, I think that the class sizes have to be addressed at the high school. I've seen some fairly large classes. More than the specific classes, the workloads for the individual teachers need to be examined and addressed. I believe that the educational materials are aging and need to be looked at and replaced. And the building itself needs some work. It doesn't need a full renovation now. It's not yet ready on that schedule, but it does need some work. I understand that the circulation and ventilation system in some parts of the building are suboptimal and making some students and teachers ill. I think that we absolutely must have an accredited high school, and we must do whatever it takes to bring that high school up to standard.
Thank you. Mark? Paul?
I agree with Mark that the physical condition of the high school certainly is an issue that needs to be addressed. I would also add that with regards to the high school, the information technology area needs to be updated. I don't believe the high school is sort of up to snuff in that regard. So I would say those are two key areas of the high school that need to be addressed.
Okay, I think we're going to have time for one more question from Chris Conley before we go to closing
This
statements.
is kind of a follow-up question on the whole override funding sort of issue. And Winchester has done very well in standardized testing, and the MCAS have scored very high, I think in the top 10 consistently. And yet funding level is not nearly that high. And so the argument could be made that Winchester is doing pretty well. They're getting a pretty good bang for its buck. Why do we need to bring our funding level up that much higher if the town is doing well?
Paul Shagru?
Well, I look at it not so much as how we've done, but where we're going in the future. I get back to the point that if the override were not to pass, the cuts to be made, and again, I focus on 16 teachers and 4 librarians in the elementary school system. The bottom line is the quality of education that thus far that kids have received in the Winchester Public Schools simply will not remain at the high level that we in Winchester expect our public schools to remain.
Thank you. Paul? Mark?
Yeah, I would agree, Chris, that by some measures with the high MCAS scores and the low costs that we look to be a strong value in education, providing economic education to our children as compared to the comparable towns. But I have been noticing that the last year's cost rankings ranked us at 81st and this year's at 92nd. Well, that means we're falling in the amount we're spending per pupil to educate our students. Now, a dieting patient is going to look pretty good for a while, but I think that we have to be careful that that patient doesn't get too thin. I think that there are other measures that we need to address that don't show up in the MCAS score, and the MCAS score itself I think lags some of those measures. I think that we need to make sure our instructional materials, our class sizes, and our curriculum support are up to snuff so that our patient stays healthy.
Gentlemen, thank you. You each will have 1 minute for a closing statement. Paul, since you were second, we will go first for a closing statement.
I'd like to close with a quote from a speech given to town meeting members by the chairman of the school committee back in November of last year, which I believe clearly states the situation facing the Winchester Public Schools today. The Winchester Public Schools rank 91st in spending in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and 6th in the state on the MCAS. The Winchester Public School System provides a first-rate education for a very average per-pupil cost. Those are the facts. The school committee achieves this performance advantage at a lower than market cost by underpaying its teachers and administrators and by failing to make necessary capital investments. And anyone with a modicum of business knowledge can accurately foresee that this model simply cannot continue. We are not paying a competitive market wage. We are not adequately funding professional development. We are not replacing textbooks and instructional materials at a sufficient rate, and we are not providing adequate access to technology. We are, in short, a school system in danger of slipping into the abyss of second best. I'd like to do my part to make sure this never happens. I'd appreciate your vote on March 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul Shagru. Mark Feblowitz.
Our children are our future. They are our future workers, the sustainers of our future economy. They are our future innovators and our future leaders. We owe it to them to give them a solid foundation from which to launch. I intend to see to it that our schools continue to deserve their good reputation, that our students continue to be well-rounded with solid academics and character broadening opportunities in exploratory courses, music, art, and athletics, that we serve the needs of all students at all levels and all abilities, and that our students are challenged to reach their full potential and are inspired to reach beyond. I am running for school committee because the schools are facing unprecedented challenges, because I share our community's commitment to excellence in education, because I feel strongly that our schools are worth supporting and because our children deserve no less. I've been watching, I've been learning for quite a while. I know I'll be able to roll up my sleeves and get to work right away. I hope you'll agree and join me in keeping our schools excellent and our town a great place to live. I would appreciate your input and your support and your vote next Tuesday. Thank you and good night.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate your coming down here, taking the time to come down here and meet the press and meet the public. We're going to be back again in just a few minutes after this short break to discuss the override question, the other candidate on the ballot.
It's time to do something bold about breast cancer. The Avon Breast Cancer 3-Day, a spectacular 3-day walk with thousands of people who've never done anything like this before in their lives. Call 800-825-1000 to register. Everything's provided: hot meals, sleeping tents, even training to get you in shape. The Avon Breast Cancer 3-Day, 3 days of meaning you'll remember for the rest of your life. Take the first step by calling 800-825-1000. That's 800-825-1000 or bethepeople.com.